Hello everybody, welcome to my channel. This is part 3 of my Speargun stock project, and for today's video I'll start by cutting the trigger pocket. So stay with me, follow along, and let's get it done. Before I start cutting the trigger pocket, I'm gonna remove a millimeter or so from the top face, and for that I'll use my jointer. I finished removing some material from this top face. Right now it's very straight along the stock, but it's not as smooth as I expected, and it actually ended up kind of bumpy. The reason it's because of the glue from the plywood and the epoxy that I used to laminate the stock. Those materials, they're so abrasive that it actually gouged the jointer blades. Now to fix this, I'll move to my belt sander and I'll smooth the entire face. Okay, much smoother now. After the belt sander, the bumps are all gone and it's very smooth. Next step will be to transfer the trigger pocket onto the stock. And for that I'll use my paper template, and with a pencil, first I'll just put a couple little marks. And then I'll transfer these lines to the right location with a square. I'm measuring the trigger mechanism, and it's 65 millimeters long by 13 millimeters wide. Now that I have the first line marked on the stock, I'll use the vernier to mark the second one. Before I start cutting the pocket for the trigger, I decided to finish the inside of the trigger guard, and for that I'll use my drill press machine. It's a very small drill press machine, but I mounted a X and Y cross table on it with these two angle plates, and I clamped the stock onto it, and this way it works like a milling machine. And now with this cutter, I just remove the excess material left from the jigsaw. Okay, this side is done. It turned out pretty good actually, but I still have to do this side. The cutter was too short, so it reached only halfway. I flipped the stock around and I'll do this side. Finished the second side and it actually turned out pretty good. Very little mismatch in the middle here. Next I'll do the same thing on the other stock. I finished cutting the trigger guard opening on both stocks, and next step will be to start working on the pocket for the trigger. Well, a little bit setback. I have to change this setup. Right now the tip of the cutter, it's way lower than what the top of the spear gun is, and I don't have enough trouble to move the cutter up. The only way I can solve this is to unclamp the stock and move it down so it sits below the tip of the cutter. Okay, I clamped the stock a little bit lower than before, and I have this dial indicator that I will run along the stock to set this face parallel to the table. Now with the new setup ready to go, I have this 2mm drill and I put a little bit of masking tape on it. That's a depth reference, and I'll drill 4 holes, one on each corner of the trigger pocket. And that will help me to later on cut the square corners for the trigger housing to fit in. Next I switched to a 6mm end mill, and I'll use this end mill to cut the trigger pocket and also a deeper groove that runs right through for the trigger to clear. I finished cutting the clearance for the trigger. Now using the same cutter, and before I start cutting the pocket for the trigger housing, I need to set the machine to cut a depth of 30mm. And I'll use the same method with a little bit of masking tape. I set the tape at 30mm from the tip of the cutter, and this will help me visualize when I reach that depth. And then I set the machine stop. Oh, it's very close. Still a little bit on the tight side. The pocket needs to have clearance for compensate for the thickness of the finishing. I haven't decided if I'm gonna use epoxy or varnish, but either one will take some space. So I'm gonna open up the pocket a little bit more. Well, I got this one done, and it was quite a bit of a work, let me tell you. But it turned out pretty good. The trigger fits with a little bit of clearance. That's what I was looking for, both ways. And now I just have to cut the corners, or make the corners square using a small chisel, and it will be done. Now with this small chisel, I'm gonna make the corners square. It shouldn't take too long or be too difficult. There's not much material left there. Before I cut the pocket, I drilled each corner with a 2mm drill, and that will help a lot because it removed most of the material. Well, should be very close. Let's try it. Still a little bit tight, but not too bad at all. Hey, we got a trigger. It's right there. Cool. I think now it's time to start shaping this handle. That's gonna be quite something too. I removed a little bit more material from all the corners, and now the trigger, it just drops right in. Bang! Well, don't you just love this song? It just makes you feel good about it. It makes you feel alive. Well, unfortunately, this is the end of part 3. And believe me, when I started this video, I had planned more than just cutting in one trigger pocket. But it's these little things that take time. Well, for now, I just have to say once again, thanks for watching my videos. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and give a thumbs up too. I'll see you next time on Mr. My Videos for You. Bye bye.